Good morning. We are going to be looking at eagle pose today. So for those of you who want to improve your hip mobility and your leg strength along with your shoulder girdle stability, this is a practice that I think you'll really like. You're going to need a strap and you're going to need a block and you're going to need a heavy dose of curiosity in your brain so that you can really sink into and grow the awareness of what's going on in your body. This isn't a practice just to push off a bunch of exercises and hope you will get a result. They will help you, but you need to bring yourself into your awareness, into your presence, and really start to feel what's going on in your body. Okay, so let's begin, and we'll get rolling with some block and some strap and some feet stuff, and then we'll come up to standing eagle. So to begin with, we're going to play with the foot. Yeah, this little guy. And we're going to start by taking your hand like this, and you're going to horseshoe the bottom of your foot. Okay? Now you might be wondering, why would you start it with breathing? Well, that's because we're going to do some breathing along with these little movements. That's why. Okay? So we're going to be here, and you'll notice the thumb is pointing up towards this ankle bone here, and we're just going to move that foot here. Now, I want you to pay attention to this movement, right? Just connect in with this movement. Easy breathing as you're doing this. So you're not like wrenching your foot, right? Which can happen. It's not like that. It's an easy, and you might not have very much movement here at all. You might have a ton of movement here. So I just want you to pay attention to the quality of the movement, and don't just take the ankle as far as it goes because it can go. Like, pay attention. Just pay attention. Pay attention and notice what you feel. Yeah? Okay? And then you're going to take your hands. You're going to do something similar up here, but for what goes on the forefoot, you're going to be pronating and supinating your foot. Now, you'll notice that when I do that, you'll notice that my ankle is not moving a lot. Now, some of you are not going to have a lot of movement through this front of the foot. Some of you are going to have a ton of movement through this forefoot. So again, notice, and I'm not holding this back of my foot a lot, I'm just moving that, right? So I'm just gently moving the forefoot. Yeah? Okay. So now we're going to do opposite. So I'm going to do, this foot's going to come this way, and the ankle's going to come up this way. And then I'm going to move that, and then I'm going to move it this way. So you can see that there's almost like this twisting element that's happening in my foot. So if you can imagine that there's an axis that's along my foot, then I'm moving it around that. Yeah? And so all I want you to do is just to easily breathe. Yeah? Just easy breathing. So I'm going to show it from this angle here. Yeah? Okay, good. To really allow yourself to connect into this thing called your body. I know it sounds obvious, but a lot of people, when they practice, they're just kind of reefing off. They're just reefing off their bodies. Okay, so we're going to start here. Now, you could be in a sitting position right now. You don't have to be in a sitting on the floor position the way I am. I'm probably not in the best body position, honestly, but it works. It's working, right? Because of where I'm about to go with you guys. Okay, so here. This movement here can be really great for you runners out there and your cyclists. It can be really effective. Okay? All right, now from here, we're going to just lie on our backs, and this is where you need the strap, and then we're going to need a block. Okay? So you're going to lie on your back. I'm going to be as close to the computer as I can so you can really see here what's going on. We're going to take the strap, and we're going to take it around the legs. And the reason we're doing this is because this movement is important to when we do eagle. Because a lot of people, when they do eagle pose, they collapse through their legs and their hips. And so this is going to be a small component to what we do when we're actually in eagle. Okay, that's why I'm doing it. So I've got the legs here, strapped up about mid-thigh height. Okay, and I'm going to move the legs wide. See how I'm moving those legs wide, which is basically a rotation slash abduction. Yeah, and so this leg's moving wide like this. Now, I want you to take your hands now into the front of your hips here. And now just lift a leg and just lift the other leg. So you get a really good feel of where those hip flexors are. Yeah? Okay, now come back to this motion. Now if you pay attention to the planes here, this is the vertical, what I call the I call it the vertical. It's called the sagittal plane anatomically. And this is important so don't get off of the call here. This is really important for understanding eagle. So, and your stability and pain through your pelvis and your spine and your knees. So we're going into flexion here, but the movement that we're actually doing is more of a horizontal type of movement, which is rotation and a bit of abduction. So here we're going this way. When we did this, we're going this way. So when you go wide, your hip flexors should be totally quiet. No contraction at all in the front of your hips or in your quads or in your hamstrings or in your calves or behind your back, SI, anywhere like that. And this can be tricky for some people because they're used to, see how my pelvis is moving? They're used to doing this very subconsciously. But this is so important for reducing your pain. So important. I would bet, I'm going to say 98%, but I would bet 100% of the time when someone has a dysfunctional pattern here with their hips and they've got back or SI joint pain, when we clear this up, the pain all goes away. Okay, this is like one of the biggest patterns I've seen in 30 years. But that's besides the point. When it comes to eagle, when you can get this feeling of your leg bone moving, distinct from your hip flexors, moving into flexion or activating to move into flexion. When you get that distinction, your eagle pose, your leg strength, your hip mobility will completely transform. So we're going to be playing with that. Now there should be no back pain, none of that. So I might need to do a video just on this stuff one day, if that is of interest. But so if you get issues there, like it's an awesome awareness to have. So now we're going to do the opposite. We're going to take the block between the thighs. So you're in the meat of the adductor. So I'm about this far away from my pubic bone. It's not up here, it's not at the knees, because I want you to focus on your inner thigh muscles, right? So when we're in eagle, we're going to be focusing on inner thighs. So now I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm pulling in toward the midline. I'm not squeezing the wood out of the block. I'm not going right? And seeing that pelvis come up. I'm just pressing those legs in. Yeah? Pelvis is quiet. It's only the inner thighs. Now, if you're getting some back stuff or there's sensation in your back, take the blocks wider and start wider. There just might be something snagged tissue-wise in the back, and that's just not releasing. So just bring your legs to a wider position and maybe press a little less. Okay? All right, lovely. Okay, take that off. Okay, now we're going to just take a moment and sit here. So you can sit cross-legged or you can sit on a block or a bolster. Just make sure that your pelvis is in a good place and your spine is lifting up. Okay, we're going to take this arm across the body here. And then we're going to move that arm here like so. And then we're going to bring the arm across. You get an idea of where we're going here with this arm? Yeah. Okay, now we're going to grab the strap. We're going to take the strap behind the body here. And we're just going to place the arms like so. So the idea here is this is the articulating joint. The arms move back. Okay, and then We're going to take the shoulders up to the ears. We're going to pull the blades back to the spine and then bring them down. Okay? So the blades are the primarily articulating joint. So if I turn here, right, it's up, back, and down. Up, back, down. Up, back, down. Okay? So as you breathe in, you're up. As you go out, you're exhaling, pulling the blades back, and then down. Yeah? And just stay aware, like just notice what the experience is. Okay, now we're going to move into a bridge pose, which might seem funny to do early on in a practice. We're going to be very specific about what it is and how it is you're going to move and how this relates to coming up into eagle in a strong way that enables you to really connect in with the mobility going on in your hips. Okay? So you're going to need your block and your strap. So have those handy. So we're going to start with the strap. Actually, we're going to start with bridge pose. So hold the strap handy. And here, we're going to lift up and then come down. Now remember, the articulating joints for a bridge is coming through here, this hip joint, as well as coming around through the shoulder. So lots of times people will do this. They'll lift like this. Right, so you can see here I'm breaking up my ribs, and that might be just because that's what the mobility is that you have available. The articulating, just notice, see if you can keep your ribs and your pelvis connected as you move. And then only go as far as you don't have to bend in through this part of your body. And then just become aware of if there's even any movement around this joint. So I like to say to people when they're learning this is to take their hands to their gluteal fold, so where their bum meets through their leg, even though that's not really what it is, but it's, you can see the shape of their bum. Place their hand there and then lift from that point. But don't tuck to lift, okay? Because when you're tucking, you're moving into flexion through your back, but then when you're lifting, you're not in flexion. So why would you move into flexion first when you're not in flexion anyway in the movement? Yeah? Okay, so now this is where we take the strap. So you're going to buckle it up just like you did before. Okay, so you're just like this. And you're going to gently, gently, gently push out. Okay, very gently. Don't try and break the strap. And then feel those 3 points at the bottom of your feet, center of the heel, ball of the foot, base of the pinky toe. And then begin to lift. So there's a little bit of a press out. So leg bones moving, and then up. Now the other thing to kind of notice is notice if your chin wants to come down like so. If you want to do that. And be aware that it's your hips that are doing the lift. These guys are connected. This is the primary articulating joint, as is around your shoulder. Just tune in and connect in. Okay, now from here, you can then take the block and bring it between your legs. Okay, now from here, same thing, lift. And just be aware of those inner thigh muscles. Now, you don't have to like push so hard that you're pushing the wood out of the block. What you can do is notice what the motion is of your leg bone in your hip socket. There'll be a little bit. And that your what's happening through your inner thighs. Notice that it's not in your back. If it's in your back, then take the prop out, or you're pushing too hard. Okay, so now that's where you are. Now kind of get a feel of what you're noticing in your legs, what you're noticing between your ribs and your pelvis, what you're noticing through your chest, and what you're noticing in your breath overall. Lovely. So from here, we're going to now roll on over and come up into standing. Have the block and the strap close by. Okay, so now here, we're going to be coming into tree pose. But to start, let's just see where our balance is at. So we can bring that leg up, and then we can bring it down. We can bring it up, and we can bring it down. Yeah. Now that might seem trite and kind of basic, but I find it really important just to notice where you're at on a given day. You may have gone for a run yesterday. You may have been rolling on the floor with the kids yesterday. And you just need to see where you're at in terms of your overall movement. So then if we come up and through here, think about this movement as being, we're rotating that leg bone in the hip socket. The pelvis is level, and you're bringing that leg up, right? So just notice, are you able to isolate that motion, right? Or are you doing this with your pelvis? Are you doing this to lift your leg up like that, right? And so the idea is with your pelvis here, can you move that leg separately? And then maybe the movement lands you there with your leg, or maybe you take that leg up there. Totally up to you where you land, right? And then from here, I want you to think about moving that leg bone in the hip socket. So notice that when I move that leg bone back into rotation, I'm not doing this with my pelvis, right? So my pelvis is staying as it is in the position, and it's just this leg bone in the socket that's doing the movement. Yeah? It's not this. It's not I'm not doing the funky chicken with my pelvis. It's just this piece. So if you're up higher and you can't maintain the stability and you're all over the place with your pelvis, then consider bringing the leg down. Okay, when you're doing this. Okay, so maybe you're here. Maybe you are here. Yeah. I'm going to come down here today. So then you get to rotate that leg bone. Whoop. All right, and then bring that down. Perfect. Okay, so now let's take the leg up over here onto the leg. So you're now coming up, rotating, and bringing that leg up. Good. And now hinging at your hips. So legs come up towards your belly. You're hinging. Good. Okay, we're going to come back to this in a moment. Let's do the other side. And you're hinging. Hips, knees, ankles. Feel the bottom of the foot. It's a little breezy here in my basement. All right, so now let's play around with just some basic chairs. So you're here, and then you're coming up. Now, lots of times when people do chair, they want to bring that upper body forward. Think about hips, knees, ankles. Hips, knees, ankles. All moving, and be aware of the 3 points at the bottom of the feet. Center of the heel, ball of the foot, base of the pinky toe. Yeah. So I've got my hand here to remind me to lift up from this, and I'm hinging at my hip, and I'm lifting. All right, okay, so now from here, let's bring back the strap. So we're going to take the strap around the legs. here, you're going to press those legs wide. See how I'm pressing the legs wide? You'll see it in my knees for sure, but it's not my knees that are pressing wide. I'm actually generating it from the legs and the hip sockets. And then I'm going to keep that press out, and I'm going to start to move into a chair. Right? So if I'm here now, now again, if you're noticing that there's a ton of pain because you've got tightness in your hip or along the outside of your leg or anything in your back, then you're just pressing a little bit too hard. So you're staying aware of the center of the heel, ball of your foot, base of your pinky toe. Notice if you've increased any tension in your upper body. Okay. So now we're going to take the arms forward. And we're going to take one arm over, and we're just going to bring that arm across. No lifting of that shoulder, just bring it straight across. Legs are pressing out into the strap. This one can be deceiving for some people in terms of how much work they're doing in their legs while they're being easy in their upper body. Because this is about the legs and doing the work there and easy in the upper body, you'll get actually more work in your legs. Good. Okay. And then come on up. Perfect. So now let's take that away. Now you might actually prefer the block. So we can take the block in and do the same thing. Now granted, my legs are a bit wider than they were. To me, that's no big deal. I'm not trying to mimic Tadasana. I'm trying to help improve mobility and strength and stability of my overall system. So to have the legs in the absolute same place is not an important quality for what I'm actually doing right now. Okay, so now we're here, right? So we're in this position. And let's do the same thing with the arms. So the arms come across. Now you might find that with this block, it's just not working, so please drop it if it's not working for you. Okay, good. And then the other side. And again, just feel those bottoms of your feet. Your hips and your shoulders have the most ranges of motion. So this is why you notice that I focus a lot on them, because when we can improve our shoulders and our hips, we can change dramatically what's going on in our body, but we still need to connect it to the feet, right? Okay, good. All right, now let that go. Okay, and then in standing. Now come back to your tree. So maybe you're here, maybe you are coming to here, and is there any difference now after doing that? And bring in your palms together. It's interesting, hey, you can see even just my stability, my balance is a bit better on this side. Whoa, or did I speak too soon? All right, so now just for fun, if you're able, notice the center of the heel, the ball of the foot, and the base of the pinky toe on this foot, meaning the one that's connected to the upper leg, as well as the one that's on the floor. And just use less tension through your upper body. And of course, noticing your breathing. Good, and then come here. Okay, so now you know where we're going, what we're doing. So pay attention to your foot on both sides and your breathing as you move. Good. Great. Okay, lovely. Now let's come into a little bit of a chair and just notice if there's anything new there. Stay connected to your feet. Easy through your ribs. Okay, so now we're going to start to play a little bit with eagle. So we're going to bring this leg up. Let me bring a pelvis here. So here, when we do eagle, this is what's really fun about eagle. Well, maybe it's not fun in your eyes, but I think it's kind of fun. Is that you're taking the leg over and then you're setting yourself down. Now, a lot of people, watch what happens here with my pelvis. A lot of people will do this to bring the legs, and then they go, oh crap, and they try to reconnect, and you can see that's not really a reconnect. It's not, once you've gone past what you can do, then you can't reconnect. You have to come out. So it's because if you try to reconnect, you're just compensating on top of compensation. You can't uncompensate the compensation when you've already gone past the compensation. Say that 5 times really fast. Okay, so here we're playing around with that mobility of the leg, and then we're going to sit a little bit, and then we're going to keep playing around with the mobility of that leg. So you notice how this pelvis, the entire time, the entire time has stayed level. Yeah? And so we're going to play around with that idea here. We're playing around with this pelvis, the one and only pelvis that you have, is staying level the entire time that you're moving. And how I'm lowering is through my hips, my knees, and my ankle. All right? Notice if there's any extraneous tension up and through here. All right? You're going to feel this, I think. You're going to feel this in your legs. Whether you do or not is a whole other story, but you might. And even after doing that, you might notice yourself like, oh, I'm standing a bit taller. But then that's my experience, so that might be yours. All right, so I'm gabbering on. We're going to bring this leg up. We're going to take the ankle on. We're going to sit into a bit of a chair position. We're going to start to move this leg bone across and rotate it as we go. Notice when your pelvis starts to shift. Please do not go into a final book pose of eagle. Just go into the movement you've got available, right? That's how you improve. Remember, strength is easy. It's the coordination patterns that are difficult. Okay, so now we're going to come up and we're going to come here. And the coordination patterns aren't even that difficult. It's that you need to be consistent. Okay, up, cross, hinge. You need to be consistent, and you need to be aware, and you need to act on that awareness. Right? If you just keep compensating and that's the pattern that you're building, that's the pattern that you'll build. Yeah? Okay. So now, standing leg. Let's just do a bit of play. You're going to take this leg up. You're going to bring the ankle onto the knee. Now watch me with the standing leg. I'm going to take my hand on the outside of the thigh. I'm going to start to bend through the hip and the knee on my standing leg. I'm going to push the leg out into my hand a little bit so that the knee doesn't fall in. I just want to get a connection here between my leg, my outer hip, and my hand. But I'm not contracting my outer hip willfully. My leg is pushing out into my hand, so my outer hip contracts because that's what it's doing. I'm not aiming for the contraction though. I'm aiming to this leg bone moving out. That's really, 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 really important. I'm not trying to make my outer hip contract, although it will be. I'm thinking about this leg bone moving wide. I'm thinking about it from a joint, not so much from a muscle, but I'm feeling the muscles respond to the joint movement. Okay, now with that awareness, keep that on. Now start. Keep that on. Now keep going with that leg. Play around with the mobility of the other leg while keeping stability and that movement outward with that standing leg. It's difficult. At least you can see with me I'm having a bit of windy moments there. Okay, then come up. Okay, ready? Other side. So the leg comes up. Okay, now bend this standing leg through the hip and the knee a little bit. Stay connected to the standing foot. And then press that leg out into the hand. And then you can start to play around with that free leg. But stay connected to the standing leg. This is your round. Anyway, balance and challenge on this side today. All right, good. And then come on up. So the idea here is that we're here and we're pressing this leg out a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit. And we're exploring the response through here. So I'm not like, I'm not contracting willfully with my brain. Contract muscles to pull leg. I'm thinking about move leg out, feel outer hip, respond. Now what becomes interesting is when you then start to use your rib cage or your peroneal muscles, like the outer part of your leg, or your knees, or your SI, or you use other areas of your body to try and make it happen. That's why I like the word explore, because we're not just knocking off the exercise, we're actually paying attention to how the movement's actually happening, right? And what else is contributing to make it happen, because if there's other stuff contributing to make it happen, and that's not a part of making it happen, then that's just a compensation. It's poor coordination, and the strength you're hoping to build, you will not build. Right? And that's what makes the process hard. But it's not hard if you pay attention and you just pay attention. Okay? So now we're going to take this other leg up, take the ankle over, start to hinge. Okay, now from here, think about this coordination between your outer hip and your inner. Because in a moment, this leg is going to cross and this standing leg is actually going to move in. Right? Because as we come in, that leg has to come in. But what we want to have what we don't want to have happen is some kind of collapse. I want you to really think about, maybe even do it from here, is think about that inner leg. The leg is moving in. It's moving into adduction. And think about that leg going like you had a block. Remember the block was here? When you were on the ground and standing, the block was you were pressing your leg into the block. Maybe even you want to put your block here. Just think about the leg pulling in. But really think about it as being a leg motion in the hip socket, not coming from the outer shin, not coming from your ribs, not coming from your jaw, not coming from your face, right? And you're not just collapsing through your knee or your pelvis. That's the movement. Okay, so now from here, we're going to bring the leg over. Okay, now this is going to be difficult to show you. Let's try this. Okay, so the leg, this standing leg is going to move in. But the moving in is an adduction, and then we're going to bring that leg in, and we're going to sit ourselves down into eagle. And maybe you can even bring your foot there. But don't lose connection, if you can, between all those parts. Yeah, this is what makes this position so fascinating. All right, so up. So play around with that inner leg and the outer. Maybe bring the block up so that you're here. So you get that experience of the leg moving in. Okay, so now you can feel these two, outer and inner, just like the block and the strap. And now from here, without gripping, just feel your strength. Good. And then from here, start to move the other leg in. And now this is, if you're crossing fully, this is an adduction, not a collapse. And then if you've, I'm not hooking today. This is where my pelvis lands. Okay, be aware of the bottom of your feet. Good. Okay, good. Lovely. All right, now we're going to do this a little quicker. Now you've got an idea, but pay attention to this relationship. This relationship meaning your outer hip and your inner standing hip to the rotation of your other leg to what's going on in the bottom of your foot. Okay, those three things. So we're going to lift this guy up, paying attention to the rotation. Pay attention to the outer and inner of the standing leg. That rotates. That leg starts to adduct a little bit as we move through the hips. Connect to the bottom of the feet. All right, now, ready? Here we go. Good. Now you can even play with hinging at the hips, knees, and ankles, if you so desire, without collapsing. Feel through that upper hip, as if you have an upper hip, as opposed to a lower hip. Think about as you're moving around, really stay in connection with that standing leg hip as you are in the position as you're moving. All right, here, other side. Here we go. Cross. Now this inner leg. Interesting language today. This standing leg. That's going to do a little bit of adduction. Keep it connected. Good. And then here we go. Woo! My eagle's about to fall off the tree. I'm going to come back into this adduction. I'm just not collapsing through that standing leg. Okay, lovely. Good, and then come up. Now what becomes very interesting from an exploration standpoint is if you can be in your standing leg and start to explore this hip movement, knee movement, ankle movement, particularly on one leg where you might have trouble balancing. Let's actually look at this side for me today, because this side I had a bit more trouble balancing. Let's go just to here. And then notice here, can you actually do the flexion well in through the hip, the knee, and the ankle without collapsing through here? So you don't want to be rigid, so don't misinterpret that. Don't say, okay, I've got better hold myself like a soldier here. No. Be easy, right? Because there's a huge amount of ease inside of strength, right? Like you can't have strength and be rigid. Like it's like this whole idea of, you know, bending with the wind versus being a rigid trunk, right? It's like if you're too rigid, you're going to break with the wind, yeah? And so it's, you need some suppleness, you need some fluidity, but not so much that you can't absorb load really well, right? So think about this idea of being easeful and supple, right? Because there's a ton of ease in good strength. So standing here, let's bring the palms down and just bring those arms wide. And then turn them over. Good, and then other way. And then turn them over. And other way. And turn them over. And other way. And turn them over. Good, and so it's exhale going out. Exhale going out. Exhale, exhale. Exhale, 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 exhale. Lovely. So you might be feeling so much now through your hips and your legs and your torso that you want to go on and do more of a standing practice. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to come back down onto the floor and just lay on my back for some few moments. I'll guide you into a little bit of breathing, and then we can all carry on with our days, however you're doing that, okay? So from here, laying on back, and then just feel what it is that you feel. And notice the response of your breathing as you're lying here. I find it so interesting how as we become more supple and better functioning, breathing improves. And not because we've focused on any amount of breathing, but rather the way the tissue is in our body is a lot more supple, which then enables better breathing. So think to yourself as you're here, or if you're still moving through other parts of your practice, think to yourself, like, just what are you now aware of? Yeah? What's now present for you in your body and in your mind and in your entire system? And what can you do with that awareness? How can you take that on with the rest of your day? So that then this doesn't just become an exercise period for you, but it becomes a way to tune in, refine, get better function, so that you ultimately come out of this whole COVID thing better than you came in. So allow this awareness of your body and allow this better function to really support your own growth and your own development. And if you need any extra help with how you're moving through your practice or your meditation practice or your breathing, or you need more support, I am happy to help you. Just send me a direct message, or if you've got my email, send me an email and let's have a chat, okay? Because you can come out better than you went in. We can come out better. Not with rigid intention. We can come out with a lot more ease and better functioning and just better everything. This can be an opportunity, as crazy and unpredictable as it is, okay? You have a great rest of your day. See you tomorrow.